Alienstage is a web series that takes itself pretty seriously. Not that it's trying to convince you that out there far in space, aliens are running a musical tournament where humans are forced to participate. Rather, it tries to convince you that you are watching an actual reality show. You're not watching a story that's scripted and animated, you are watching a show that is being streamed through cameras pointed at an actual stage. This commitment goes beyond just a viewing experience, as there is an official website, but it's not for the human audience. Instead, it's for the Singan or alien audience, which is where they can read articles on how their season premiere was actually up 2,000% compared to the last season. But despite being human, you can scroll down and see a preview of the contestants you'll get to know, or maybe you'll stop at the guide on how to care for your very own pet human with such helpful advice as don't try to feed them cyanide or mercury. This is all part of a pseudo-nonfiction appearance that Alienstage surrounds itself with, and it's this appearance that you begin to form an unspoken agreement with. You will believe in this facade, that you are watching an actual tournament where performers bound against their will give everything they have to win, and you will be rewarded. Believe in Alienstage, and you'll get to hear more from these performers. You will get interviews and articles that give scraps of what they are like off stage, like how the contestants in the premiere were actually excited to perform together and chose to harmonize rather than compete, which was unheard of in any of the previous seasons. By agreeing to the illusion that Alienstage offers, you get to look even more behind the veil of the show. You will get to learn more about these characters that endear you to them in a way not so different to how you grow fondness for real-world pop idols. And it's this attachment that makes accepting Alienstage's illusion enticing for everyone. Everyone except for the performers themselves. The performers who have more depth than the shallow lyrics and interviews hosted by their captors will allow, whose passions run deeper than coming out on top of a bracket full of others trapped behind the same bars. That they are more than what is televisable, and they will shatter Alienstage's illusion to prove it to you. They will show you that you are not watching a reality show, but you are watching a web series that pretends it's real. While Alienstage is really popular, having episodes that break over 10 million views each, it is an experience that can feel like an invite-only club, where you have to be a fan of the right kinds of media to have even heard of it, if not dismiss it altogether if one of those qualities aren't within your interests. And this is unfortunate, as you could be missing out on one of the best and most complex stories you could ever come across. The web series takes just over 40 minutes to watch, but months to truly experience. Whenever you find yourself wanting to listen to a song from Alienstage, which you will find the instrumentals taking you back to specific moments of the episode. The lyrics continuously making you reevaluate every character in relation to each other and within the story itself. And this is especially evident when the entire series shifts from a pseudo-nonfiction reality show to a piece of surrealist art as it tries to capture the innate human desire to self-express and love. And it all starts with exploring the illusion that Alienstage offers you. A short pitch for Alienstage is that it follows a cast of 6 characters who are connected through a musical tournament where 2 contestants perform a song against each other for a crowd of Singan, who vote on who they thought performed the best by no other perceivable metric than preference. A longer pitch for the series would be, the rest of the video, but would most certainly contain how the story takes place in the far future, where aliens have enslaved humanity and reduced them to the state of pets. This longer pitch would probably also say how most of the narrative is told through the on-stage performances, of each episode being roughly the same length as the song that's being performed. This makes dialogue a rarity, as characters barely ever directly communicate to each other, but that is made up of how every second of these episodes are absolutely overflowing with moments that show you how these performers are on stage and how they progress through the tournament. Rather than being told that Till, if given the chance, would kick your ass, the Singan's asses, and probably his own to prove a point, your first impression sends you barreling towards that conclusion yourself. When Till comes on stage, you see him physically bound, leashed to the ceiling as he wears a seething look of contempt. And honestly, your expectation would probably be, oh no, we are about to see him sabotage the entire performance instead of participating. That assumption being only half right, as instead of playing to the crowd, he plays the game itself. If the performer who does the best gets voted the highest and therefore wins, then he just needs to make it so his opponent isn't an option to vote for. Instead of playing the pre-planned song, Till brings his own guitar on stage, plays over the intended instrumental with the song he wrote himself, and before his opponent has time to adapt, he smashes his guitar into literal, visceral pieces, ending the performance early. This 2-minute introduction shows us exactly who Till is, and that is someone who will play your game, but by his own rules, whether you like it or not. Ivan, however, is almost the complete opposite of Till. Rather than using a gimmick or cheating the spirit of the tournament, Ivan stills the cheers of the crowd with a captivating, powerful, and personal performance. Where Till showed that you can break the rules in order to pass, Ivan showed the absolute mastery that comes from acclimating to the rules. The Sengen want a show, and with a nearly perfect mask of pure prowess, Ivan delivers. Nearly perfect because at points in his song Black Sorrow, a certain spark shines, unsuffocated by the system. His performance makes him winning feel inevitable for as long as winning is his goal. When Ivan is on stage, you will be captivated, even as that spark fades as fast as it appeared. Mizi and Sua contradict not only Ivan and Till's performances, but rather they contradict the nature of the competition itself. The latter episodes were defined by how the relevant characters chose to beat their competition. Mizi and Sua do not have this in common. Instead of competing, they chose to harmonize and perform together in a display that says that their love comes first over whatever winning or losing means to this tournament. A love so strong that Mizi refers to Sua as her god in her universe. And it works for the show, the duo being so in sync that their score is just a single point away. But if you are familiar with Alienstage, you may have noticed two important pieces of information I left out. Information that recontextualizes the entire narrative. The first is that each episode is actually comprised of two different sets of scenes. A lot of plot progression does occur on stage, but those performances are actually a small percentage of the episode. Most of the screen time is actually made up of flashbacks that truly reveal who the characters are behind their onstage personas. You are not left wondering what the spark in Ivan's eye is from because you get to see the very first time he had that glint, seeing beautiful streaks of shooting stars going across the sky. Ivan had that same glint when he met Till in the Human Pet program, whose rebellious will very may voltaire a streak in the world. A rebellious spirit unlike anything Ivan had ever seen in his life of muted assimilation. That glint was the look of love, and it's that same look he had when Till decided to run back from Ivan, who had a guaranteed escape for them both to a human-led rebellion. But the reason for Till's return, despite rejecting conforming every step of the way, well, it's for the adoration he has for Mizi. The reason why he both fights so hard, yet willingly stays in the system, his song Unknown Till the End even being dedicated to her. We also see that when he isn't flipping off crowds of Sengen or being punished for not falling in line, he is genuinely an artistic soul, drawing and constructing songs whenever he can. Cuff him, beat him, throw him in an empty room, or restrain him from even moving at all, he will find a way to express himself. But there is an exception to the contradictory stage personas. The contradiction, once again, coming from Mizi and Sua. Instead of the performance illustrating a way to market them and the flashback showing the true artist behind the persona, Mizi and Sua's flashback support the amount of love they show each other on stage, showing that the way they act is as genuine as they can be in a world like this. That is the first piece of information I didn't share, that the story is made up of half flashbacks to reveal the true character, and then the personas they put on to progress through the tournament. The second piece of information is that while every character is clearly playing to every strength they have, at no point is it ever stated what the performers, if anything at all, win at the end. No, seriously. Not once in any episode is it mentioned what the final participant gets, despite it being the center point in our understanding of this universe. That's not to say we don't know why each character is competing so hard. We may not know what the winner gets, but we know that the loser of each round is executed immediately in front of the entire audience. Though them dying isn't even a part of the show, rather just what happens to the loser. The gunshot is silent, not even interrupting the song's melody, almost like Alienstage denies the importance of a human that is no longer a part of the show. If you're thinking, wow, those seem like pretty important details to just not mention, that's true, but it also serves as a perfect distinction between how the in-universe reality show of Alienstage and how the version that we watch places their values. The web series drowns you in the dread that each of these characters who have deep ties and bonds are in a collision course where one of them will have to kill the other in order to survive. And this makes your mind race to constantly consider what is going to happen in the following rounds. Is Till just going to crash his way through the tournament? If so, what's his plan if he were to face Mizi, the one he adores in the finale? But before he even gets a chance to worry about that, he has to face off against Ivan. And what will Ivan do when he's facing someone he cares so deeply for? In an in-universe interview, he said he'll try his best because Till is considered a genius, but will he? We have been shown just how deep and at points how obsessive his love for Till goes, so we don't know if he values his life or Till's life more. And will Mizi even be able to make it to the finale after witnessing the one she loves killed because she won by a single point? These thoughts are constantly racing in your head, keeping you on the edge of your seat throughout every episode of Alienstage as you try to figure out what will happen next to these characters that you have both a near intimate knowledge of, but are also complete strangers. But none of those aspects matter, at least to the reality show. Ivan is just the BioCell representative, the charming personality rising through the ranks after winning in round 3. Till is just the rookie bad boy genius, and Mizi is simply innocent and endearing. None of their personal stakes matter, any of their reasons for climbing. All that matters is that they continue to do so because the show is about who wins. And this could be the plot. A show where characters scream for individuality while the deafened narrative marches on through the bracket. Their cries unheard, covered by how successful being misinterpreted makes them. There could be a clear dividing line between the people who watch the web series and the Sengen that watch the reality show. There could be if the episode right after Ivan's introduction didn't make that line disappear. You begin to care about who wins, you care about who keeps climbing, you care the same way as the fictional aliens do, as you are hoping that your favorite character isn't unfortunate enough to meet Luca in the bracket. Luca is not like the other characters. If each character were trapped butterflies in the spider web that is the stage, then Luca emerged from his web cocoon like it was a chrysalis, becoming yet another inhuman threat within captivity. Fitting perfectly into the illusion that Alienstage builds up, but is also the reason why that illusion begins to fall apart. We don't get a traditional introduction for Luca like we have gotten so far, where we see the stage from the contestant's perspective. Instead, we see the monster that Luca is from his opponent, Mizi. Luca is the contestant that Alienstage wants, which he has proven by having an entire bracket of corpses behind him. And you see this experience as every trump card until now is just a stage trick to him. Mizi and Sua's crowd work radiates around him to the point that while Mizi gets this reaction upon her entrance, Luca gets. Not only does he have Ivan's star power where his sheer talent alone can win entire rounds, but he has that star power tenfold. Ivan is #1 ranked in the Sengen fandom, but Luca syndrome is sweeping the universe. And he even has his own under-the-table cheap tricks like Till, but in a more elegant way. Till changed the entire song, forcing his opponent into a position where he could not participate. Luca simply devours the entire song, barely leaving Mizi a single line to perform by herself, in a contest that's preference determines if you live or die. And if that wasn't enough to make a match against Luca a practical death sentence, he has his own trump card, using a sick ploy of personal sacrilege, twisting the memory of the person that his opponent has lost against them. And this is too much for Mizi to handle. From her perspective, she has lost her love, the one she called her universe, and then she has to come face to face with the Grim Reaper, wearing her memory. While the matches aren't usually called until the song ends, the fact that she can't find a foothold on stage while being toyed with knowing there is no way to turn the tide is practically dragging her to her own demise. The pressure piles up, the pain of loss piles up. Everything we have seen from Mizi since round 1 bears down on her so hard, and it's more than she can endure. It's more than the illusion of the stage can endure. The melody doesn't end, but the round does, as Mizi... The video All In by Vivinos starts with larger-than-life action set pieces with a genuine blue sky in the background, all set to a rock song that makes fighting back seem like not only an easy choice, but a fun one. Despite being from the same creator as Alienstage, this feels like such a departure, being nearly antithetical to the depressive atmosphere that was every episode of the series. You aren't following people trapped in a cage where you have to find the lines of rules they obey. All In is the opposite of Alienstage, where you follow the rebels that are trying to tear down that very line. It is the opposite of the reality show, as All In is actually one of the episodes of the web series. And despite being as far opposite as it can be to the Sengen-controlled narrative, it does fall in line with what we are used to seeing. All In has the same split scene format that the other episodes have, following a flashback and a performance. The difference, however, are how the scenes are split. You do get a performance, but it's not on a hollow set that tries to guess the emotion of a song. The neon lights and cobbled together equipment create an atmosphere that is perfect for the song our lead is singing, and perfect for the message that no one is forced on stage for their survival. They get to be on stage because they did survive. And the other half of the scenes are shown the bloodshed and rebellion that they survived that led to that freedom. But as you may have guessed, there is yet another thing that I am hiding about Alienstage. At the start, I said that the series follows a cast of 6 characters who are connected to the musical tournament. The first 4 are the group that live in that tangled web as they grew up together. Number 5 was Fuka, who served as a spider on that web who is there to break them down, and Hyuna is number 6, who is trying to take down the entire web so no one is cocooned again. She is involved in the tournament as it is her and her rebellion's target in their campaign to end a human enslavement under Sengen control. And this entire episode fits her the way she fits this episode, as she had kicked down the door of Alienstage's certain death sentence rule and was happy to do so. Absolutely exuding the rebellious spirit that is painted all across this episode. Or so that's her front, her persona. While those aspects are true the same way as everything we have seen so far is technically a part of the cast, no character is separate from that complicated web. Hyuna, having grown up in the same group as Vuka, and has ties that run impossibly deep that show even the smallest crack in her and Vuka's fronts. But that doesn't change the fact that All In is saying something genuine and unfiltered, and that's that freedom is a foolish fight away, and the fact that we have a view of the world not being behind the bars is proof of that. That enjoying life isn't about finding comfort and obedience, but finding what you can carve for yourself in a world that wants you and other humans to have nothing. But what's wrong with having nothing? Who wants actual rebellion when you can have Till, who was rebellious, but now has a nice, inoffensive, sanitized punk sound to him? But he lacks because of his compliance now. He, well, has the fastest selling album. And Ivan? Yeah, he's the BioCell representative, which is just one of his many sponsorships. Luca is forever in his glory days. Or so says Top 3, Alienstage's official promotional material that was released to almost counter what Luca and Mizi did to the end of last round. This peek into how the Sengen view the stage show each cast member only being valued for what they bring to the performance and not the reason for the performance. Also, Top 3 says Ivan is number 1 in the Sengen fandom, and I don't know if you've ever spent time in real fandoms, but there's no way he'd be able to secretly be in love with another contestant and no one finds out. So that's more proof that they aren't paying attention beyond the performance. I don't know where I'm going with this. Top 3 and All In feel like the quintessential difference between the show and the web series, as both shout their messages loud and clear. What is meant to be broadcast, a song of freedom or a song to be bought and sold with no consideration of the one singing? That does look like the full story if you aren't considering the performers themselves. The side perfectly shown in the episode titled Mizi Sua. Mizi Sua is neither loud nor clear. While the story so far has been given through lyrics and actions both in the past and present, this episode does none of that. Being completely wordless and showing a representation of emotion rather than an explanation. A representation of Sua and Mizi's bond and how tragically cut short it was. Strings and keys are gently plucked in the background following in a familiar rhythm. Two glass cases on rails sit in a meaningless expanse, but they are close enough together for them to share their light with each other, to give meaning to the void that they find themselves in. But this moment is brief, and the cases begin moving in opposite directions, and the infinite darkness now separates them. There is no dramatic crescendo, no song to add to your playlist, but it shows a clear cost for the participants in the tournament and the cost of living in this world. For the first time, diegetic sound in the form of rain is heard in the background. Off the stage, in the real world, no one has control of what you can hear, and no one has control over what is felt. When I said Luca's pressure shattered what Alienstage was, this is what I meant. While the show wants you to connect with the popularity of the performers, there was bound to be a breaking point. There was bound to be a pushback against the show. There was bound to be a pushback against the web series. Yes, the flashbacks elaborate on the characters more than what the stage will show, but that still feels more like a performance. Like a true version of them, but filtered through a lens that we can comprehend. Mizi Sua shows that these characters have feelings that cannot be understood by whatever limited or shallow song they are allowed to sing. In truth, they are much more unadvertisable and much more surreal. There is something interesting that happens when you return to Alienstage after experiencing it in its entirety. You will never see these performers the same way again, as both the narrative has changed them and you uncover so much about them that you see the cracks that make up their facade from the very beginning. You see it in the episodes that feature them in the flesh or in memory. You see it in the way side material characterizes them, in the way the songs they cover from each other come across, as well as the sub-songs that have been released from them. It's these aspects, it's this look at our cast that took a hold of me more than the narrative itself. Yeah, you'll constantly reconsider and recognize what happens in the story as you think back to lyrics and how they connect to specific moments, but at a certain point, all of the pseudo-marketing and immersion breaks, and you stop seeing them as performers, and instead see them as the fictional characters they are, depth and all. No longer does a scorecard at the end of a round define them, or the success and prestige they gain throughout their time on stage. Instead, you see them for who they truly are, no matter how many filters they are put through. But why does any of this matter? Why does the depth of fictional characters in a web series that feels like it takes place far from our world matter at all? Well, it's because I don't think it's that far. I mean, no one is getting executed for underperforming, but there are so many artists that have their own stories and experiences to tell that have to stay inside the lines that they are told to stay inside of, or they will get replaced by someone who will, or an AI trained off of people just like them. It's a reminder that so much of what you consume, no matter how seemingly corporate, amateurish, professional, or personal, exists a real person who did what they could to make something genuine. And just knowing that makes every expression incredible. To see the meaning behind the intent of success, to see the meaning behind the art, to see what doesn't have to pretend that it's real. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. This video was much more of an undertaking than I expected, but we made it out of the other end of it. If you want to find me outside of these videos, I am on Bluesky, and if you want to support the production of these videos, see script and editing breakdowns as well as behind the scenes of how it all came together, you can support me on Patreon, which would allow you to join these wonderful names: Johan, Zachary M, and Brandon B. I say this every time, but I promise the next video won't take half a year, but I hope to see you there whenever it does come out. Until next time.